If you have tried probiotics without relief, cut out foods that still cause bloating, or wondered why your digestion never fully recovered after antibiotics, the missing piece might not be what you are avoiding. It might be what traditional diets included daily that yours does not. Fermented foods are not a supplement trend. They are a foundational food preparation method that industrial processing largely erased from the standard diet. And that erasure may help explain why bloating, unpredictable digestion, and food sensitivities feel so common today.
Welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. Stay informed with quick, easy-to-listen summaries of our latest articles, perfect for when you're on the go. No reading required. Subscribe for free at mercola.com for the latest health insights.
Hello and welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom.
Dr. Mercola frames digestive symptoms as signals rather than something to dismiss as normal. The article connects gut imbalance to issues extending well beyond the digestive tract, including fatigue, brain fog, joint pain, and metabolic dysfunction, often through chronic inflammatory pressure. Driven by a sterile, shelf-stable diet that delivers almost no meaningful microbial exposure to the gut. Before refrigeration and chemical preservatives, controlled microbial activity was how humans kept food edible and often made it easier to digest. The gut did not evolve around sterile packaged meals. It evolved alongside foods that had been partially broken down by microbes before a person even took a bite.
That historical context matters because now most meals arrive in the gut demanding maximum digestive effort while delivering minimal microbial or enzymatic support. When digestion is chronically strained, the surface symptoms may be bloating and indigestion, but the downstream effects can look like systemic inflammatory pressure that drains energy and resilience. Dr. Mercola identifies 3 common mistakes that cause people to have poor experiences with fermented foods. Choosing pasteurized products with little to no live microbial activity, adding fermented foods without displacing the inflammatory processed foods already in the diet, and introducing too much, too fast to an already sensitive gut.
The article also draws a clear line between fermented foods and probiotics, because conflating the two leads people to buy the wrong products. Dr. Mercola cites Stanford Medicine's nutrition program to explain the difference. Fermentation is a process where bacteria or yeast break down sugars and starches and create new compounds, including acids, enzymes, and vitamins. Probiotics are specific live microbes shown to provide a health benefit. A fermented food may or may not contain probiotic organisms by the time it is eaten. And postbiotics, the non-living microbial components and fermentation byproducts, can still influence the gut lining and immune system even if the microbes themselves do not survive pasteurization.
That reframes the mechanism. Fermentation changes the food itself, not just the microbial count. The article explains that fermentation can increase the bioavailability of nutrients like vitamin C, vitamin B12, and vitamin K2. It generates metabolites like lactic acid and acetic acid that lower pH, discouraging harmful bacteria while supporting an environment that favors digestion and barrier integrity. That barrier piece is critical because gut barrier stability often determines whether foods feel tolerable or inflammatory.
The article cites Cedars-Sinai research showing measurable outcomes. In one controlled dietary study, participants ate fermented foods daily for 10 weeks, and researchers documented reductions in 19 inflammatory proteins in the blood by the end of the trial. Dr. Mercola also highlights a notable perspective from Suzanne Devkota, director of the Human Microbiome Research Institute at Cedars-Sinai, who explains that many microbes in fermented foods do not permanently colonize the gut. Instead, the thousands of chemical products of fermentation may be the most beneficial part because they interact with immune cells and feed existing beneficial bacteria.
That reframes the goal entirely. Fermented foods are not just about importing new microbial residents into the gut. They deliver compounds that change the neighborhood, fueling what is already there, signaling to the immune system, and shaping conditions like pH that influence which organisms thrive. This is also why some pasteurized fermented products may still have benefits, since postbiotic compounds remain even after heat processing kills live cultures. Dr. Mercola is explicit about why fermented foods work best when they displace ultra-processed foods rather than being added on top.
He highlights ingredients like emulsifiers, artificial sweeteners, and seed oils high in linoleic acid as compounds that may compromise gut barrier integrity and shift the microbiome in an inflammatory direction. Replacing processed items with fermented options delivers a dual benefit, adding beneficial compounds while simultaneously removing inputs that disrupt gut chemistry. The article frames this as addressing the root cause rather than treating the symptom, because the problem often is not a missing supplement, but a food environment that delivers almost no microbial benefits while flooding the system with processed ingredients that undermine gut function. The practical framework starts with choosing real fermentation over marketing labels. The article recommends centering meals around traditionally fermented foods in small, consistent amounts. Items like sauerkraut, grass-fed yogurt, kefir, kimchi, and fermented vegetables deliver microbes along with organic acids and peptides in a whole food matrix rather than as isolated strains. For maintenance, Dr. Mercola suggests a few tablespoons of fermented vegetables or about 4 to 6 ounces of fermented dairy daily.
Product quality gets detailed attention. For sauerkraut and kimchi, the article says they belong in the refrigerated section because shelf-stable versions are often heat-treated or acidified with vinegar to mimic tang, without true microbial fermentation. The ingredient list should be vegetables, salt, and spices with no vinegar. If vinegar appears near the top, the product was likely acidified rather than fermented. For dairy, grass-fed yogurt and kefir are recommended for their enzymes and bioactive peptides. Kombucha gets a specific caution because many commercial brands add significant sugar after fermentation, which can undermine gut balance instead of supporting it.
The start low and go slow principle is emphasized throughout. If the gut is already irritated, large amounts of fermented foods can trigger symptoms because microbial populations may shift quickly. The recommendation is starting with a forkful of fermented vegetables or a few ounces of fermented dairy once a day and building gradually. Some fermented foods are also high in histamine, including aged cheeses, kombucha, and long-fermented vegetables. Dr. Mercola lists possible signs of histamine intolerance, including headaches, skin flushing, and anxiety, and recommends focusing on fresher ferments like lightly fermented sauerkraut and fresh yogurt if those reactions appear.
Rotation is another key strategy. Dr. Mercola recommends rotating 3 to 4 fermented foods each week to support microbial diversity. Dairy ferments deliver enzymes and peptides. Vegetable ferments supply organic acids and transformed plant compounds, and grain-based ferments like true sourdough change starch and protein structure. The weekly rhythm does not need to be rigid. Yogurt one morning, sauerkraut with dinner. Another day, kimchi on a third day, kefir later in the week.
Home fermentation gets a strong endorsement because it gives control over ingredients, fermentation time, and sugar content while avoiding hidden additives. The article notes homemade sauerkraut can cost only a few dollars per quart and last weeks, making it more economical than most probiotic supplements at roughly 50 cents to $1 per serving.
The bottom line Dr. Mercola presents is that fermented foods address a fundamental mismatch between what the modern gut receives and what it evolved to process. When the gut has both the microbial input and the environmental conditions it was designed for, digestion becomes more efficient and inflammatory pressure begins to resolve. The solution is rebuilding the food environment. Displace ultra-processed items with traditionally fermented foods. Verify the fermentation is real through storage location and ingredient lists. Start with small, consistent servings that respect the current state of the gut. Rotate across food types for broader microbial support. And pair fermented foods with fiber-rich whole foods so beneficial, bacteria have fuel to thrive.
For the full practical framework, including the specific label reading shortcuts to avoid vinegar-acidified imitation products, serving ranges for both maintenance and rebuilding, and the weekly rotation plan, visit Mercola.com and read the full article on how fermented foods transform gut health. Thank you for listening to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. See you in the next episode.
Looking for trusted health wisdom you can hold in your hands? Discover the life-changing books of Dr. Mercola at joyhousepublishing.com. These titles bring decades of natural health research into practical steps for better energy, stronger immunity, and clearer thinking. Take charge of your health with guidance rooted in science and experience. Visit joyhousepublishing.com now and claim your bonuses while they are available.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe now and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.